Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now, if you haven't seen it already, we covered this Wellpro WE23 Mini, which is practically a minigun that's almost pistol size, really. A bit of a big pistol, but yeah, it seems to do very well. Many of you said, well, why didn't you shoot it on camera? The main reason for that is I'll do a shooting video, but there's no point me shooting it in this room. You can't see me shoot it at distance. As I've said many times before, I don't have 24/7 access to somewhere where I can shoot this stuff at distance. I've tried to find it many times, but I have to travel places to do that. So that's going to have to come in good time, which I'll be doing, of course. But many of you wanted to know what the actual power of this thing was, and many of you had concerns of, right, I decided to take this to a game. How am I going to chrono it on site? How are we going to get around that hurdle? So we're going to have a look today, and we're going to see if we can solve that problem. So I've got a chrono. I'm hoping we can chrono this okay. So I've got the capture box set up in the corner. And the way that I'm going to be chronoing this today is basically what we need to first determine is where the barrel situates when it fires. And it's not at the top. I think it's slightly to the right, like here. So we're going to have to determine that first. And the way that we're safely going to do this is we're going to take one of these magazines. And the beautiful thing about this minigun, we're going to test it with some 2s first, because I think predominantly you're going to be using light ammo in this thing. You're not going to be putting .4s in it with the rate of fire that it has. It would be a very costly endeavour, and I don't think this is going to hop something like a 4, but 2s, 2.5s, I think you'd be okay. So I've got some 2s in here. We're going to pop the magazine in. All the barrels, all the hop rubbers, or the hop units, sorry, are set to 0. And we're going to see if we can fire this thing manually. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to set it up on the little tripod here. It's pointed at the capture box. So what I'm going to do first is just raise that capture box up ever so slightly, so we don't miss it. And we're just going to turn the barrels. So this might take a second to feed, because the magazine's going to have to feed up. There we go, one's fired. So I don't know if you'll have seen that, but it fired from the topmost barrel, and it fired literally just to the side of this wrist rail. So what we're going to have to do is come up with a way to chrono that. So get in a box, it needs to be about that high. So we're just going to pile up a couple of things and just try and set the height so we don't have to worry about it. Do I have something to put under that box? I should have. There's a million things here. I'll tell you what, we can just try and hold it, and we'll fold the grip in. So I'm going to turn the chrono on. We're set to 0.2s. Now we're going to have to chrono it 5 times because it's got 5 barrels. So we're going to set that up to the side there. I'm going to try and chrono this thing. So first barrel. That didn't come out high at all. That one came out a little bit better. 167 on a 2. 96. That's very low powered. That one seems high powered, but it didn't chrono. 170. 189. It might be turning this by hand that's making it have lower FPS, but obviously we'll have to test that. 120. That high powered barrel. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 seems to be the lower powered barrel, but let's try and chrono this barrel. No idea how that missed the box. 164. 140. Accidentally shot that one. 151. 107. And that's the only barrel that I can't seem to chrono. You know what, let's risk it for a biscuit. I think I know where the barrels are firing. So I'm going to plug a battery in. And we're going to try. This might go horrifically wrong, but I'm going to try and chrono it so I know when the barrels are about there it fires. So let's try and do this. See, now they're coming out about 250. So 0.5 joules. The box just flies off the bench because of the amount of rounds that are going through it. It's 23 rounds per second on that battery. So not insanely high. Let's put the bigger battery on it. That battery might be low on charge. Let's try and set the box up so it won't fall over. And let's see if we can do it. 26 rounds a second. 27. 28. 29. So about 30 rounds. It's creeping up a little bit, but about 30 rounds per second. And 0.6 of a joule. So it's got a little bit better once I've put some rounds through it. Again, it could just be a thing that, you know, out of the box, they just need a little bit of spooling up. It could be it's a bad air seal. It could be this is the way that they're designed. Which leads me on to the next thing I want to talk about, is how to make this thing safe. So we've fired BBs through there. You'll see we still have BBs in the hopper. So how are we going to get rid of them and make this thing safe for your local field safe zone? So I'm going to remove the mag. I'm going to plug the battery back in. I'm just going to give it bursts upside down. Still some BBs in there, as you'll see. Every now and again it does fire a BB. I think that's empty. No. 5 more rounds just dropped out the bottom. So there we go. It's finally clear. So you're just going to have to be 100% certain. But I do recommend, if you're using one of these and you're not 100% certain, is just put it on safe and disconnect the battery. That way, when you're in the safe zone, there's no way of you having a negligent discharge and, you know, injuring someone. So this is a 7.4 volt battery, which one of the other people in the sent me a message in the Discord and asked me, just run it on a 7.4, see what it's like. So we're going to do that. I'm imagining it's going to be low rate of fire, but here we go. I mean, it's a low rate of fire, but that could very easily still be used as a support gun. You know, 30 rounds a second is what we managed to get out of it, or just under 30 rounds a second. I'm sure people have said that these do about 40. There was someone also that said the M132 does 50 rounds. Now, all the classic armies I've seen, they've been nowhere close to that. That's running quicker than any classic army minigun I've ever fired on this battery. And that's only doing 29. So it could also be a thing of this chrono. Just, I mean, it does always not really function well with the rate of fire tests. So it could be that. So yeah, there we have it. That's how to chrono it. So what you want to do, to sum it up, is I would set it up, load it up with some BBs in a safe place to do this, and just turn the barrels by hand so you get an idea of where the barrels are when they're firing. And for me, it's just about, you know, the sort of between 12 and 1 o'clock position, just to the right hand side of this rail. And once you've got that, all I was doing was I was just lining up whereabouts they fire through the chrono. You've got a bit of leeway with these chronos because they do have a large opening, and then just going from there. So they are low powered. I think 0.6 joule is what I've seen advertised, 0.6 to 0.8. So what we're going to be looking at with this project is we want to try and get it up to a joule. I'm told these don't run on AG springs, but you know, I'm sure there's a way we can upgrade the power. They do have a very small barrel, you know, it's only like this long. So small barrel, weak springs, and I also want to see if we can up that rate of fire even more by perhaps putting in a brushless motor. We could try brushless motors, we could try high speed motors. This doesn't really need a brushless motor, but just so happens I've got one sat here, so that could be interesting, popping one of them motors in and seeing what that does. Let me know in the comments below what you want to see me do to this thing. I still think it's a really, you know, interesting piece. What I will do is I might get a couple of the other models that have longer barrels and see what the powers are like on those. I can't remember which barrel it was, which one it was. It was like maybe the X Plus or something like that. The S model I'm not too sure on because it's really weird with the grip. I think if you're having a grip that's more sort of horizontal, it's going to have to be like a chainsaw fed type thing. So yeah, really interesting, to be honest. Feeds, you know, more than well enough. It's easy to empty the magazines. I've shown you how to clear it so you can make it safe for your airsoft sites when you're going back into the safe zone. All the hops are set to 0, so it could be a case of the BBs are maybe just rolling past the hops before they're fired, which might have, you know, because we did get higher FPS when I was running it on auto with the battery compared to doing it by hand. Doing it by hand, I was getting around about 100 to 150, 160 FPS. When it was hooked up, we were doing about 250, 260. So very interesting. Hope you like it. Any more questions or anything you want to see on this thing? Of course, we'll be taking it apart, see what's inside, and seeing if we can get the power up on this thing. But anything else you want to see, pop it down in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out the links in the description if you'd be so kind. And as always, from me and Bench, we'll see you in the next video.